Howdy folks, Rudrose here, and today with Whispers in the Well just right around the corner, I thought I would take this opportunity to go over some of the cards in the set, and since a full set review would take far too long, even though there's clearly a lot worth talking about in this set, today we're going to look at those special cards that you get at the back of your Lorcana packs. That's right, we're talking about the rares, the super rares, and the legendaries. As you can see up here in Dreamborn, it says 78 cards. There are 78 cards in total. Whispers is obviously looking to be a much better set than Fabled, but of course, what wouldn't be, because Fabled was terrible. So, let's just look at the rares, super rares, and legendaries, and I'm just going to give you my opinion on them, even though I'm sure these have been out for a minute and people already have their opinions, but we'll just go through them. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Blue, bodyguard and support, still kind of crummy. I don't think, even with all the power creep to the vanillas in this set, I just don't think you will see them see play at this point. You are still going to value cards that have a certain effect you are looking for. I don't think the bodies are quite insane enough currently that you will value a body that essentially does nothing. Now, this does have text, but bodyguard is just, it's kind of a weird mechanic in general that while I appreciate it, it's usually better at lower costs. I can't think of a single large bodyguard that has actually seen play, and the support doesn't even give you much to support with. So, yeah, when you're in the 6 cost range, people are just banishing stuff with a Hades, so bodyguard doesn't mean a whole lot. That being said, it's a huge body, and Lord knows you bump it up with the Mickey, the thing's going to be gigantic. Rapunzel, our first legendary, also support. A little more interesting, you could describe this effect as a shield. I think Star Wars Unlimited has like a shield token. Is chosen for support until the start of the next turn. So she can't add it to herself, but she naturally has support, so something else would have to give her support. Still, it's cool. I don't know what deck this goes in. I'm not even sure where and if it'll see play. It is a princess. It does get cheaper off of Aurora, so maybe it's an alternate for Tiana. But it's really neat, the idea that they have to send 2 challengers in just to deal damage to it, or they can't just use cannons on something or strength. Yeah, it's a really neat effect. I'm not really sure where it goes, so I hope it sees play. Sebastian is, just your typical aggro 2 costs. It's kind of interesting to see them power creep some of this stuff so heavily, but a lot of the lower stuff they've really left alone. Clearly they still think this is a good line for aggro. Will the C play? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Was there a steel version of this? I guess there wasn't. So I guess before this you had to play Simba or you had to play Pinocchio. So maybe they will, but like Nala's just kind of better, right? Like you lose the 1 strength, but you get an extra willpower. And yes, she can't have damage, but the resist, like the extra lore with the resist, pretty much never came up, right? And what I mean by that is that very rarely did someone deal her enough damage so that she no longer had the +3 and she only had the 2 lore, but then she still survived. That's what I'm trying to say. So I would just assume at this point Nala is just better. Ariel, rare. I genuinely am not sure what to think of Boost. I need to test it out. The idea is interesting, but I could also see it being very just overcosted or slow, and I think it'll ultimately just depend on how good is the effect you can boost with. Clearly, there's a lot of potential here that there's a lot of card draw. There's no limit to this. So if you can get 3, 4, 5, even 2 songs in a turn, that's drawn, but then you're paying 5 this. So yeah, I'm genuinely not sure what to think of that. Scrooge, this is boost support, right? So obviously this will just depend on how good boost is. If boost is so darn good that maybe it's worth playing a card to help support it, maybe you'll see Scrooge. He's a shift line at least, although I'm not 100% sure what smaller Scrooge you really want to shift this onto. This seems like a dud, but again, maybe boost will prove us wrong. So Mowgli, I've actually had some experience testing with. I was doing some play testing this past weekend, and I mean, he's better than nothing, right? But he's no bare necessities. What made this card so brutal was the fact that you got to choose what it was. And every time I've seen Mowgli come into play right now, maybe it was just happenstance, maybe over the course of many, many games it'll prove to be better, but they always had another card, and it's like, oh, I'm trying to get the Under the Sea board wipe. Nope, they had something else. They just threw that out instead. So, I mean, maybe you're still going to run him just because if you have nothing better to do, it's still a way to potentially disrupt your opponent's plans, but he just doesn't seem as accurate. Simba is absolutely awful. You have to pay 10. You have to pay 10 for a chance to play. Like, why? I genuinely don't even understand the design of this card. So you have to pay 10. You then have to hit a character, and then it comes in exerted. It doesn't even come in fully ready. Why? You're paying 10 for this. And who's to say you won't hit a 1-drop at that point? Like, I know you think in your head, oh, I'm going to play Goofy Knight for a day for free, even though I don't think that card's even legal anymore, or Maleficent Dragon, but no, it's just, I just don't get it. Like, why are we making worse Mufasa? Just bring Mufasa back. So, yeah, terrible. Absolutely terrible card. Mickey, I got to test against this, too, same time as the Mowgli decks, and if you have to rely on challenging, this dude is a pain in the butt, especially when there are multiple, and then they buff each other, and now he's a 2/7, and this card that you thought, oh, it's a 2/4, I'll get rid of, something. It was the Ursula singer. This Vanessa was on the board with 2 Mickeys backing her up, and now suddenly she was a 1/8, and she's singing all these songs for free. Like, oh, good golly, this. If you don't have actual spot removal for this guy, he's going to be a real pain. And then the Singer 8 was ridiculous, too. The person was just singing Circle of Life for free. So, yeah, if he could be a real pain in the butt, especially if you have to remove via damage. Goofy, Shafai, 5/7. A lot of lore. When he plays character and whenever he quests, each opposing character gets I mean, I like the effect. I like that it's kind of like a board-wide shrink. I'm sure there's some Goofies. Let's see which Goofies are worth shifting him onto. I don't want to take too much time on this. Just in Amber. Okay, so probably this Ghost Hunter is what you're shifting him onto. You probably don't want to give up the legendary. So again, I like the effect. If you can shift this onto this one, and he kind of is continuously protecting the board, that's pretty good. 3 lore is a lot, and he has a really strong stat line. Which, especially if you get the Mickeys out, again, if they have to challenge and they're losing strength every turn and they have extra health, like, oh, look out. However, there is, of course, a board wipe that doesn't really care about how much health you have. That's going to be very present in this set. So if that's as popular as I'm anticipating it will be, then maybe all this extra health doesn't actually mean anything. Gazelle, from your discard on the top of your deck. I mean, the body is insane, right? 3/8 has a ton of health. Singer 7, but it's uninkable. The song has to be in your discard, and then you don't even get it to hand. It puts it on your deck, which forces you into that draw next turn, which could potentially be a detriment. So yeah, I don't know. Horseman Strikes is very good when it's good and really bad when it's not. You don't really want to pay 3 just to draw the card, which, to note, you can always just draw the card. They don't have to have an evasive, and you're not forced to hit your own or anything. It's optional, but very good against, like, the Blurple from last set. I was running that, and opponent just Dumbo gone, Elsa gone, Genie gone. So really great when they have a bunch of evasives, but then when they don't, and the guy playing it felt that too, it was like, oh, this deck has no evasives, this card doesn't do anything, and I don't want to pay 3 just to draw a single card. So, the ultimate sideboard card, right? If Lorcana ever added a sideboard, this would be the card to have there. Black Cauldron's absolutely terrible. I can't believe how bad this card is. 3 costs just to get it into play where it does nothing. Then 1 more to put a character under it, and then another 1 to then play that character. So you have to spend a total of 5 just to get the ability to play a character, which you then still fully have to pay for. So let's say you put a 3 cost under here. That's 5 up front, and then that 8 to get a 3 cost on there. I mean, sure, if there's some game that ever exists where it's a really grindy game and you're just grinding and stalling with your opponent, then this is pretty crazy that this will give you a lot of value in those games. Usually Amber isn't the color that does that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling this item at all. Seems awful. Duckburg. Woo. Let's see, what's this do? Character quests while here, you may pay 2 less for the next character you play this turn. I like the idea, and it makes sense for an aggro deck, but it's so expensive, right? If you want to put this in an aggro deck, even if you drop this on turn 2, let's say you have a 1-drop, then the next turn you pay your 2 ink, you move your 1-drop over to essentially get another 2-drop as well. I mean, obviously, so the thing is, if they could stick around, let's say you do that. You drop this on 2, turn 3, you move your 1-drop over, it's 2 less. You can actually still pay your full 3 because you have your extra ink. And if that character could stick around, this location will pay dividends, but that's also implying you have enough characters to play. If you're going aggro, you're probably running out of characters anyway. Maybe there's some combination of this in the future with Black Cauldron, but it also doesn't have any lore, so That's a lot of work. When Lorcana usually boils down to what's the simplest strategy, and this is a very work heavy strategy. So that's Amber. Minnie Mouse, yeah, definitely want to touch on all the champions. Looks like they're all rare and above. Banished in a challenge, you may draw a card. Now, the nice thing is at least it doesn't have to be a challenge from your opponent. As long as they are banished in a challenge, you can send yours into them. It triggers, so I do like that quite a bit. You probably will never want to quest with this unless it is very safe because you want to keep drawing. Amethyst is kind of in this funny spot too, where like at some point we don't need more card draw, right? Amethyst already has so much card draw. Like, does it need this? I don't know. Maybe in an aggressive build. Maybe if there's some small Amber Amethyst aggressive build, and so then you drop this Minnie on 4. All your characters are Amethyst, which is kind of contradictory to Amber, right? Amber usually has the aggressive lore stat lines. So, cool idea. And I do like the art, but will that see play? Yeah, probably not. Horn King seems terrible. This seems like a worse Dr. Facilier from set 1, in that, yes, you get it back into your hand, but then you also have to discard a card. And that didn't see play way back then. So, I don't know why this version, which seems worse. I guess the idea is that, well, this is a lot cheaper and it's inkable. But I don't know. Like, and even if you shift it on 2, he's the only card. So his effect isn't even in play. You still need another character in play. So I don't even know why he has the shift 2 ability, because it just seems not good. Like, I guess on turn 4, you shift him for 2, you challenge in with something, it comes back to that strategy's just never worked. It just hasn't worked, and I can't see a Horn King changing this. Another Horn King with the weirdest effect. Have left players discard this turn. This character gets +2. That's insanely specific and probably not worth the effort. I guess it does work in an Amber Amethyst match, or like aggro deck with Lilo if you're bringing Lilo back every turn, but then he's a 2/2. So you'll get that once, you'll quest for 3, and then they'll knock him out. Creeper, just a big static body. A lot of lore, but, probably still not going to see where play. Coldstone. I was always wishy-washy on this character in the show. If you've never seen Gargoyles, by the way, I'd highly recommend it. It's a show that holds up very well and was great as a child, and I've enjoyed it as an adult. You have to go really heavy on the Gargoyles. I think in Amethyst, the only other one's Demona, right? Because all the others, I think, are Steel. Is this worth... I mean, it's instant lore, right? It's essentially like a goat, an instant goat that came in and left immediately, but it's uninkable. Well, and why is this uninkable? Like, it has a condition specifically tied to a art type of characters that there are not very many of. So yeah, I just can't see this seeing much play, just because the Gargoyles are so limited. Magica. 1 damage is just so low. Obviously, if you can stick around boosting forever, but just 1 damage is so tiny. And she gets another. Why does she get so many cards? And most of them tend to be terrible. If you shift to play her, you may draw 4 cards. Okay, so the idea is you play this one, but then you're getting rid of her static ability, or you just play one of the other many Magicas. Let's see how many Magicas we have. Holy moly. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put her full name. Magica de Spell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why does this character have 8 cards? And they all are awful. I mean, this one at least has like a cool idea. So you have to shift for 7, which is her full cost. I mean, so it's essentially a 7 cost that you can't really even play for 7 because it's just awful as a straight 7. You have to shift it, but you don't even get the normal advantage of shift of you get to bring it in early. I mean, 4 cards is a ton, but you can't take that risk. Yeah, terrible. Unlike our legendaries, Demona. I need to see this in practice to know how good this is. God, that Enchanted looks so sick, and such a great character from Gargoyles. Because in some sense it seems busted. Especially if you go first, you get to use your Demona before they do if you're in like a mirror, and then their Demona doesn't do anything. However, filling their hand up for 3 potentially could be a big enough downside to hold it back, but man, board-wide exertion. See, it may just come down to like play or draw, because if you're going first and you get to Demona first and then you just wreck their board, but then you don't want to play your Demona because what does she do? You essentially just fill their hand up for nothing. Yeah, so very curious to see where this card goes. I would not be surprised to see this be completely broken and obnoxious, but also I also wouldn't be surprised if it was like, well, it's a bit overhyped. It doesn't quite do what we wanted it to do. Hades, so essentially, usually when you have a card like this that gives your opponent a choice, they're always going to pick the best choice for them. I would imagine the majority of the time this is going to say draw 2 cards, especially if you're trying to get like rid of a Maui half shark. I don't think they're going to let you do that. He does seem pretty worthless against like an aggro list that I'm going fast. Okay, quick, get that Tiana off the board. They say, nah, you can have 2 cards. By the way, you've just spent your entire 5 ink playing a 3/4 body. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how Hades shapes up, and if the 2 card draw ends up being good enough, I think he'll actually see quite a bit of play. If legitimately you're happy to pay 5 for a character that just draws you 2, similar to Demona, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of him, just because he is kind of straightforward in that sense. Or at his worst, then okay, well then I either get rid of the worst thing on your board, or you give me 2 cards. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see, we're just looking for a little more in our decks. Ursula, as far as boost goes, seems very, very strong. My friend Justin was pointing out that you can drop her on 5, and then turn 6, you use your 6 ink, 5 of it to play an Elsa, and then the other 1 to boost the Ursula. Now you have this evasive quest for 3 lore, pretty decent body, and then your Elsa still goes in and does whatever it wants to. The only thing I would wonder is, where do we find room for this? Because I would assume you would want a bit of a higher end deck like Blurple. Like, I don't think Amethyst Steel wants to run this, but maybe they do. Maybe just because it's a solid enough body, it'll live through the new Zeus Light card that deals 4 damage. So maybe you will. Maybe it's just a really strong top end for that. So she just reads very, very strong, even though 6 is a lot. But I mean, a 3 lore evasive with decent stats like that is also pretty good. So I would imagine this will see play. Cheshire Cat, I've seen other people really excited for this card. I kind of dismissed it originally as like, oh my gosh, it's such a worse Bell. Bell just has better stats. You play it for 5, you immediately shift it. This one essentially costs is Bell, but it's on Bell on layaway. And I will give credit for this, that this is repeatable. Unlike Bell, which just comes down, does it once, and then it's done. The Cat is repeatable. That being said, is that a lot of ink to invest every turn? It kind of depends what else you're doing, right? Like if you're in that kind of top deck mode where you can't even spend all your ink, maybe you're happy to keep spending 2. But also it means you have characters with damage that you want to, that are maybe consistently challenging. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe the idea of a cat just sitting there, you've got an Iago or a TikTok or some other big beat or a Monstro, it keeps going in and picking off their characters as they exert, and then you just keep healing it up and picking off other stuff. So maybe there is a whole strategy around the cat. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how to feel about this one. Dismissed it originally, but I've kind of seen the light, at least the potential of it, so we'll have to see where he ends up. Can't hold it back anymore. Seems awful, especially being uninkable. I remember Justin was saying, like, oh, this has to be, I think, 3 cost or 2 cost to make it worth using, and it costs 4. And it just seems weird. Why am I exerting the opposing character if I'm going to... Because the idea would be to kill it, right? That you move all the damage and then knock it out. So then why did I even bother to exert it? And if you're saying it, well, I'm just doing to exert it to then what? Use Into the Unknown or to use Elsa? Like, so now you've put all this extra ink into doing something that you have other cards that do anyway. Yeah, so that one seems bad. The Gramorum Acanorum, which is how they say it in the show, for those of you who don't know. Whenever an opposing character becomes exerted, it's only during your turn, so it has to be due to your Elsa effect. Obviously works with Demona, which makes sense. It was her spellbook, or the spellbook she used, I should say, in the show. That's still a lot. 3. Obviously, it gives your Demona Rush, which is kind of cool with the legendary, the turn you play her, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this ultimately won't be worth it, but it'd be cool to see a build with it. Amber, why is this rare? I mean, it's a big beefy body, but like, come on, that doesn't deserve a rare slot, which means I'm going to pull a bunch of these. Hooray. Baloo, I don't really understand the reciprocal effect in Emerald. If I'm trying to discard strategy, I don't want to make them draw. I obviously don't want to make myself discard. If you play Baloo as last card in your hand, that's nice because you could just get discard on them, but I'm sure there's better things we can be doing in Emerald. Megara. So the Merfolk trigger, when she's challenged, has a bigger body than the Merfolk, so she might actually live through a turn, although stats are bigger this set. The 2 lore is nice. I don't know. I'm not sure what to think of this. Like, does she work in an aggressive strategy? Like, would you want to play a Meg on 3, then on turn 4 you have to use 1 ink, so you can only really do another 3 cost. Maybe you play that new Cloud Kicker Light. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. This is another one I need to see in action, because I can absolutely see the upside of it, especially if she trades with what hits into her, which, Merfolk never was able to do. And it's inkable at least, so maybe there's something there for Meg. Goldie O'Gilt. This is like the one that uses locations, right? Location. Yeah, I mean, locations are so bad now. I so desperately wanted to make the library work last set, and it just wasn't having it. And as the bodies get bigger, I think locations get weaker and weaker too. So, yeah, seems terrible. Shere Khan, Emerald Legendary. He's outright evasive. 6 cost uninkable's no good. Banish chosen opposing damage character, then you may put 1 damage counter on another chosen character. So the question I would have is, because I'm never 100% sure how Lorcana's rules work, because I don't think they really know how Lorcana's rules work. If this was Final Fantasy, the put 1 damage counter would be contingent upon the first effect, given the wording that, so he quests, you banish a damage character, and then you may put, so if it was Final Fantasy, you would have to banish a damage character before you could put the 1 counter on. However, Lorcana seems to have this rule of like, do as much as you can, even though I've also then gotten many rulings that have completely contradicted that. So if he always gets the 1 damage, that's kind of nice. You play him, he's evasive, you quest, you hit something. And obviously if he can do this chain where banish that, set up the next one, banish that, set up the next one, that's cool. That's a really cool chain. Granted, it's still a 6 cost that the moment you play it does nothing. Is that worth it? I don't know. I have hope for him. I would like to see him do well, but I have no idea. Scrooge seems really cool. I like the idea that they basically can't get rid of them, at least through challenging. Of course, in Constructed, this is going to be a lot worse if they have something like cannons. They just go, oh, okay, boop, gone. But it's still a filter, so I like him in an Emerald aggressive deck, but if Steel's very prevalent, yeah, and they can just cannons him, that's going to take away one of the main advantages of this card. Goofy, goofy, goofy. If they're banished in a challenge, banish the challenge. So he essentially gives everyone the Cusco effect and gives them ward, which ultimately says, well, they're going to have to challenge them because they're not going to be able to target them with anything. This card clearly has a ton of potential. I'm not sure where he goes. And something with a lot of these champions, too, is that it depends how well your deck is split. My old Ruby Amethyst deck was actually mostly Amethyst characters with just a few Ruby ones, so the Amethyst champion would really benefit that deck. But if your deck's a 50-50 split, then how effective is Goofy actually going to be? So maybe you would need to find a deck that really leans in on the Emerald side and just has like a splash of whatever other characters. So yeah, but Ward, we know how annoying Ward can be. Very curious to see where Goofy ends up. Little John, boost 3. Okay, so he's uninkable. You play him for 6, does nothing. Obviously, you then quest for 3. You spend 3, ready him. He has no restriction. He doesn't say he can't quest or challenge or anything that turn. So you could get 6. Gosh, man, if you had enough ink. So in theory, okay. So you play him on 6. Next turn, you quest for 3, spend 3 on the boost, ready him, quest again for another 3, spend 3 on the boost, which you've got because you've got 6 to play him. Quest again. You got 9. You can get 9 lore out of this dude in 1 turn. That's actually kind of cool, and maybe that's worth it. Now, granted, you're going in heavily on that, but I mean, that's 9 lore. That's basically half your win condition. Interesting. That could be something, dude. A Goofy into a Little John? Goofy to protect him with Ward? There could be something there. That's a lot of lore. 9 lore in a single turn. Imagine you're on 11 or you're on 10. Or you're even on like 7, but you've got a Goofy and a Little John, and they're threatening 11 lore between them. You're on 9. Like, okay, hit Goofy and Little. I'm just gonna go to 9 in 1 turn. That's kind of cool. That is kind of cool. I kind of want to experiment, make a deck with that now. Webby Vanderqueck, I've heard is very good. She obviously seems very good against ramp decks. If they don't play ramp, I'm not sure how strong she is. Let's see. The nice thing is, too, so like, let's say you shift run 2, but if you're going second, you had to pay the 2, so unless they ramped, you'll be tied. But what you could do is on turn 3, let's say they go their 3rd ink, Webby's still on the board, you then quest first with her before you ink yourself. And then you just get to really ramp off of her. So she seems pretty, and she has ward, right? They have to challenge her. They can't just pick her off. So she actually seems decent. It'll be so nice to have a set where multiple legendaries seem decent and they're not just all terrible. Trust in me. I don't think I've seen this one. A lot of these are actually like so many cards came out at once. Song -1 lore. Each opponent chooses and discards 2 cards. So the discard part is much worse than You Have Forgotten Me. It's a song at least, so you could sing it. I kind of like the lore. That's a neat trick. Just the idea that like, oh, they're aggro. Actually, no, you run out of lore. Although, with all the things green can do now in Under the Sea, the Prince Philip combo, surely it's just better to get rid of all those cards than to like stall their lore. So as neat of as an effect that is, this card just seems terrible. And that's way too much to pay for a discard, even if it's on a free song. I say that and then watch some decks and come out that just abuses this and sings it over and over again, just makes you discard your whole hand. Malice. Banish them. Yeah, the reckless part's kind of like whatever, but I do like the idea of repeated damage. God, what a power creep over, what was that, the Steel Chromicon? Folks, look at the night and day difference here. Pay 6, deal 1 damage to chosen character. This one's pay 3. And granted, you have to pay an ink each time, but still, you put a damage counter so it gets around resist even, like, holy moly. And then an additional effect. It's fine. Again, I think there's just easier, better things to do. Yeah, I don't know. It's no spellbook, I'll just say that. Like, that's asking for a lot to go right. If you're able to consistently do that every turn, you're likely already winning, so I don't think you really need the ink caster. This is a cool idea. I like the idea of like the more you load into the location, the more characters it gets. Obviously, it's very subject to removal because you have to wait. They have to stay there through the start of the turn, but it's a cool idea. I would like to see this be successful. Moving on to Ruby. I don't understand the love for Diablo. I have to be honest. I don't. I'm not saying he's not good, but with all the stats going up across the board, and this being worse Smee, it's Smee and he's uninkable. Now I guess you could argue, oh, well, he doesn't have the self-damage Smee had, but like that was usually, that very rarely was that ever an actual detriment to Smee. It was, if anything, it was neutral or it was a benefit because of Rapunzel. I mean, I guess this is good in the sense that Ruby's cards have been terrible, but I just don't see it. Like, again, it's not saying it's bad, it's solid, but I was surprised by how in love people were with this card as if it was some amazing effect or ability. It's like it's just it's a Smee. It's an uninkable Smee. All right. David Xanatos, one of my favorite characters from Gargoyles. Any one of your characters is banished. Draw a card. Character quest, chosen character. I mean, I like the Rush on Demand. That's pretty cool. There's that, what was that, Mushu last set that had that? He quests for 2. He's essentially one more than the 5/5 vanillas. It's only during your turn, but obviously the idea is you give something Rush, you send it in, it banishes, and then he draws. He's cool. I don't know what deck this goes in, but he is cool. Hopefully he can see some play. Here, we'll just do the rubies, make this simpler. Hans, King and Queen characters can't quest. Well, if you happen to run into the Queen Sensor Core deck, I guess that's great. If an opponent has 2 or more ready characters in play, gain 2 lore. That's kind of neat. It's like a Flynn in a way, but you're like punishing them for having at the start. Oh no, they have to be ready at the start of your turn. Oh, okay, never mind. I was like, oh, well, that'll always trigger because they'll always be ready when their turn hits because you ready them first. No, they have to be ready on your turn. That's weird. Yeah, okay. Because of that, I don't see this seeing any play. Hercules can't be dealt in unless, so if he's the one challenging, he doesn't take any damage. He can freely swing in for 5. That's pretty cool. Obviously, no rush. When he's exerted, other hero characters can't be dealt damage unless the same effect. I don't know. A hero deck has never really shown up. It's a cool idea. It is slow, though. It's still you play it for 4, doesn't do anything unless you've got other... Well, no, he has to be exerted himself, so you can't even just like play him and protect your other heroes. And he's only got 3 is the problem. So like even if... So you play him for 4, you run in on turn 5, you knock something out. It's probably pretty easy for them to just counter and knock him out themselves. Yeah, he doesn't seem very good. And he's uninkable? Why is this uninkable? I don't get it. Speaking of uninkables, Ruby Champion, +1. Characters with 7 or more get plus... what? So Shark can quest for 1 extra, which Shark doesn't want to be doing anyway. Weird. Ruby just getting hosed again. So far, it doesn't look like this color's coming back. Maybe the Horseman stuff will change it. Elisa Maza. Another great character from Gargoyles. Clearly, she's meant to be in there with the Gargoyles. So she has a condition to be a 4/3 3 lore. I mean, 3 lore is a lot. Uninkable. She doesn't need the Gargoyles. Well, no, they don't have to be the Gargoyles, but they have to be something with high enough strength. And she's turn 3, so what are the odds then on turn 4 you'll have something with high enough strength? 2 things with high enough strength to give her the 3 lore. And even then, she has 3 health, so the moment she quests, she's probably getting blasted. Nah, this card doesn't read very well to me. Well, there's a card on this character. I mean, that's a cool idea. I like the idea of, I like protect my reckless characters. They don't have to go in. They can now actually quest. Ultimately costs you 4 for a 4/4, which is okay. You know, if old Maui existed, Hero to All, maybe, because that was such a good card to use. I don't know. This still seems like a lot of hoops to jump through. Lady Tremaine, uninkable. That's not good. Boost when his character quest. This turn. Okay, so essentially action recursion, but on an uninkable. And she has to quest, and you have to put her a card. Gosh, so she's uninkable. You play her on turn 5. She does nothing. Next turn, not only does she have to quest, you have to pay an additional 2. So of your 6 ink that you'll potentially have, 2 of it has to go into this. And then you can play an action with cost 5 or less, which ideally you want to play an action of full 5, so something like Dragonfire or whatever else you might think. But if you played her on 5, you clearly didn't play that action on turn 5. And it's not like she can even then sing it herself because she has to quest. So, sounds like a lot of hoops to jump through. Doesn't sound good. Horseman, another 5-cost uninkable. Good old Ruby uninkables. But it's a stronger baby Sisu effect. It's essentially the big Sisu for a single character. Whenever an opposing character is banned, each of your characters gets plus. And it doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter whether his. So he can come down, immediately knock something out. Each of your characters. He does buff the entire board. So the whole board could then hit for 1. So he could potentially lead to a blowout turn. I don't love that he only has 2 health. The idea that cannons can take this guys out is kind of annoying. But I guess if you get your leaves no trace the moment you play him, that's all you care about. Seems pretty solid into aggressive decks, but beyond that, especially with all the stats going up, it's very possible he won't have a lot of targets to hit. I like the card. I will need to see how it shakes out. And Ruby in general is still just kind of lackluster overall. So, like, there has to be a strong enough reason to go in and on the Ruby package. Is the Headless Horseman it? He might be. Let's see. Shere Khan, an 8/8 for 8, shift for 5. Wild Rage. Deal 1 damage to this character. Ready him. He can't quest for the rest of the turn. Huh. So kind of like a Scar/Monstro mix at the cost of some extra ink. And then obviously he can only take so much damage before he gets banished. And if you have to pay a full 8, he does nothing the turn. He comes in like, I don't know. And then you're still paying 1 extra ink each time to essentially abuse that. That doesn't seem very good. It seems terrible. Olympus, clearly cool with Maui half shark. Outside that, I can't see you ever using it. Yes. This is specifically to go with Sleepy Hollow, which is an okay card, but I don't know if you want to do you want to fully go in on that. But it plays it from your discard for free. I mean, this could play Library. And you don't have to play, if you have Sleepy Hollow. I wonder if there's a Sleepy Hollow Library deck you could run. I do like the idea of getting Library back for freebies. Bitterwood. I mean, that's expensive. So you have to pay 6 to draw a card, and that means you also have a character that can do that. I don't like that. All right, let's take a look at Sapphire. Quest 5 or more. Tap. Another form of ramp on Quest. Not bad, although... Is anything going to replace Tipo Sale? Probably not, which is why Sale should probably be banned, but it won't be. During your turn, your detective characters gain alert and resist +2. I mean, that's pretty good. This might be the payoff for detectives if they're actually worth running. Can challenge essentially anything on their board, and evasive doesn't get in the way. It's a field effect too, so you can actually just drop the Judy on 6 or shift her, and it's immediately active. That's nice. Sultan. Wait, he only has 2 lore? Why is this worse than Sebastian? No, seriously, why does this only have 2 lore? Oh, I guess it's the Maleficent, because he's not 2. It's the Maleficent or the, what was the other one? The Lilo from set 1, which they're now bringing back. And see, again, that doesn't make sense. That was a set 1 card. Why is this stat line staying the same? But other stuff's going up? I don't know. Scar, clearly super strong effect, although you're paying a total of 7 for it. And then, which also means you need something to challenge. I guess the Scar himself could potentially challenge. Cool idea, but sounds like a lot of work when there's just better things you can be doing. Daisy, man, if you shift this on the Amber Daisy, the idea that you could really slow the ramp down, you know, so you play you'd have to play yellow-blue, which isn't historically a great color combination, but you Daisy on 1, you Tipo Sail on turn 2, turn 3 you shift into this Daisy, so you get a much bigger body, you stop potentially giving them cards, and now you've made all their ink worse. Like, I'm going to try that. I don't know how effective that is, but I will give that a shot. And then cheap support is really good for 4 strength, so other than outside that specific line, I think she's awful. Like, if you have to pay this 6 for this, and then she has to sit there a whole turn, the card's clearly terrible. I kind of can't believe it's a legendary, especially compared to Cinderella. If you've seen this card just seems bonkers. That Sapphire Love just continues. I don't think you even need to trigger it over and over again. Although if you play a second Cinderella, you could trigger it a second time. And again, if it like it ramped you at the cost of like, okay, but you're losing your hand size, that's one thing. Nah, you get to replenish. That's fine. I guess that's just decided Sapphire gets to do that now. Okay. Judy Hopps. Draw engine for the detective package. Maybe this is what they're going for. I don't know how good detectives will be, so this card will be good if detectives are good and bad if it's not. Daisy Duck. Sapphire characters gain resist +1, so it's essentially Cogsworth, except you can interact with this. And if they quest, you get to do a little card filtering, which is pretty good. Yeah, she seems solid. Solid body. Again, what deck will she go in? Not 100% sure, but maybe purple or blue steel. I think all these champions will just really depend on... Because I have a feeling you'll get into these situations where you're like, oh, I have the Daisy. Oh, all I have on my field are steel cards, so she isn't actually doing anything right now. So that might hold them back, which is a little disappointing. Kristoff, boost 1. Just card and put the top card of your deck. Yeah, I mean, another former ramp. That essentially costs 4. He has to survive. Again, I just can't see anything taking Tipo. Spooky Sight. Okay, this is one folks are very excited for, maybe afraid of. All characters with cost 3 or less into their player's inkwells face down and exhorted. Doesn't do a lot against the higher end decks, but it does deal with aggro decks pretty well. It's not a song. It can't be sniped by Ursula. It does work on your own characters, but also ramps you very well then. And if you're playing the blue decks, you probably want to be ramped anyway. Is good against certain warded characters like the 3-cost Prince Philip. So I will be a bit shocked if this doesn't see a lot of play. It would probably mean the meta's just in a spot where there's too much stuff it doesn't hit. But it could cause a meta shift, right? If people are worried about this card, maybe they go into the genies and all these 4-cost characters that just completely avoid Spooky Sight. So I guess we'll see. Ink Amplifier draws a card. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of this. I like the idea of punishing extra card draw with letting you ramp, but this is still just slow and terrible and not guaranteed to trigger every turn either. So, not very good. Whenever you put a card in your ego, choose some princess character. I mean, is Cinderella worth protecting? I guess if there's a princess that's absolutely worth protecting, this could be good, but I don't believe that is the case. Most of the good princesses do what they need to do the turn they come in, so yeah, seems awful. You may already choose an item. I mean, maybe back in the Lucky Dime days, that would have been sick because you can just Lucky Dime twice in a turn and you could just Tamatoa 0 to 20 no matter what. But right now, when items are so bad, nah, I don't think so. All right, and last, certainly not least, Steel, Robin Hood, have to pay 5, deal 1 damage up to 2. I mean, I like that he can spread his damage out. That's pretty cool. Is he going to last beyond that? No idea, because he's just a 4 on 4 cost. I'll be surprised if this sees play, but maybe there's some combo I'm not thinking of with it. Maybe in like a green steel deck where you have the Prince Philip, and you can't quite get to the scary, and Robin Hood's like an alternative way to put damage on people. Maybe there's something in that combination. Next we have Goliath, who I don't actually love this art just because his costume is kind of strange. I guess it's the Dreamborn version of him. Nonetheless, I, of course, love Goliath from Gargoyles. I don't know what to think of this card. Obviously, very heavily punishes Clarabelle Greedy Draw, or all the Amethyst Greedy Draws, where if you force them to... They're holding on to this massive hand, and you force them to junk it, you can really punish them that way. However, maybe they just dump their hand out, and then they can just draw off of him anyway, and say, oh, thanks for the refill, I appreciate that. And then they still get a full turn to do something, so if they can just spot remove him, oh, okay, you're welcome to Goliath away. Okay, hit him with the Hades, like, then he doesn't do anything anyway. So, yeah, I genuinely am not sure what to think of this card. I'll have to see him in testing. Headless Horseman, I remember this reading terribly. Each player draws 3 cards, discards 3 cards at random. For each action, it's so specific. So the most you could get out of it is 6 damage. On play, it's only once. It costs 8, which is absurd. Obviously, you could shift, but I don't think you want to play red-gray just to try to get this to shift. And then the discard at random is just like, why can't I choose it? I'm paying 8 for this. Why can I not choose? I'm going to specifically throw away 3 action cards. Let me pick that. Yeah, it seems just absolutely awful. What a terrible super rare. Can't be dealt damage. Other characters gain the detective. I mean, so essentially he's like a free challenge, right? When he runs in with challenge, he can just hit anything and he won't get banished by it. That's kind of cool. The problem is it's only during your turn, so again, you'll get to do that one single time, and then they'll just knock him out with anything. So probably not good. I also don't think the detective thing's going to matter. If you want to go in on a detective deck, there's enough detectives to make that work. Banishes another... Yeah, I mean, if detectives are good, Nick will be good. This is just a body, even if it isn't overstated body for its cost. Prince Charming. This card is just like... If 7 cost body card, 10 health, which is, of course, nuts, and then it limits the challenging. If you happen to be going against a deck that can only challenge, which is very few of them, this card's busted. He's so strong. But... more than likely what'll happen is you'll play him and then he'll get Hades, or he'll get Prince Philip combo, or You're Welcomed, or Elsa Frozen, or, you know, just any of those other effects that just don't care about your 10 health and just knock you off the board. But if you got that deck that can only win through challenging, hey, he's gonna be awesome. He's also terrible when you're behind. He does absolutely nothing for you when you're behind. I like this as essentially Mushu just for steel. It's so cute, too. I love this art of him playing with the pages. Essentially the ultimate item destroyer, too. I don't know what deck this would go in. Same with all the other champions. As much as I love the idea of them, I'm not sure where you play him that you benefit that many steel characters. So, but I would love to see him see play, because such great art. Fairy Godmother doesn't even make sense thematically. Why would this banish a character? That's a Ruby effect. But then if you do... They reveal the card, and if it's a character or even an item, they could play it for free, so this could completely backfire on you. And then she costs a total of 7 to do that, and she's uninkable. Like, too high risk. Too high risk. Maybe if you're that steel player that's just desperate as like, hey, it's a way of, if I absolutely have to get some card off the field, and normally I have to get rid of it through like damage-based removal, maybe she's like a one of emergency case, but that still just doesn't seem reliable. Sword of Hercules seems like it could be cracked. I guess it depends how many deities are around. I think Hades and Maui's are all deities. So if those are super prevalent, but it's 2 costs, so that means you're holding it back. And if you're holding it back, then you're not taking advantage of the second effect, which is like, you know, little mini Calhoun Mushu on an item, which the second effect is actually a bit more appealing to me. But then, okay, so let's say you just play it on 2. You're not worried about you just want the second effect. I mean, it could be. We'd have to find the steel deck to put it in. Purple steel, maybe? Because that was always... Maybe. Do you have room for this? What would you cut for it? Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea. I'll have to see it in action. Ingenious device. Draw a card. Okay. So you pay 5? You pay 5 just to get the draw discard? That's terrible. When it's banished. Okay, so essentially you pay 5, you get a little scry, or you get a little filtering, and then you also hit something for 3. That's a lot. 5 ink for that is a lot. If you just straight drew a card, I would like it better, and it's still uninkable. Like, that just seems terrible. The tunnels. Your character here is each. Okay, I'm all about location synergy, even if it's not good. I mean, I like the idea. I like the idea. You put this down, you move someone here. It gets more lore because you have other locations, and then the locations themselves become cheaper. Really love that. However, for locations to be effective, you need to have a way to protect them. So you need be prepared. Or in this case, probably what makes the most sense is Prince Philip. Maybe you combine this with something like Hidden Cove. And you only need one character here. You only need a single character on the tunnel, so maybe you should stick one on the tunnels. You have the Hidden Cove to bump the others, and then Prince Philip to keep the locations clear. Interesting idea. I may have to try and build something around that. It'll probably be terrible. And Castle Wyvern, which is just a straight upgrade over Maui's Place of Exile, which they reprinted in set 9, only to bring back a much stronger version one set later, because why should rotation be enjoyable or make any sense when we can just power creep it one set later? I will never understand or forgive them for that. Cool. Awesome. Well, those are all the cards that are rare, super rare, or legendary. Good luck with your polls this weekend. Hopefully mine aren't absolutely awful, and I appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe, share the video with others who you think might enjoy it. And until next time, take care.